So, yes, it is. It's always DNS. But on today's video, we're going to talk about DNS as a whole, a few solutions that are out there, and kind of cover off where I've gone, what the journey I've gone on in respect to the fact of I was previously self-hosting Pi-hole, but where have I gone now? Generally, if you're a network administrator or you've had to support or diagnose any kind of issues related to internet or even network connectivity, the phrase, it's always DNS, will certainly strike a chord. What is DNS? So DNS stands for Domain Name System. To quite put it simply, it is like a phone book of the internet. Every single website out there will have a unique IP address that links back. Now, you imagine us trying to memorize millions upon millions of IP addresses to navigate to the likes of google.com, etc. It's not going to happen. So what needs to happen is a system needs to be in place to basically map that name, so that URL, to a particular IP address, which is where DNS comes in. But seriously, can you imagine trying to memorize all of these IP addresses? So as I mentioned previously, I've covered off hosting a DNS server in the form of Pi-hole, and I use that also to block advertising ads and also tracking cookies. There is other stuff it can do as well, so malware-laced sites, etc. It can certainly block those, and the kind of other unpleasantries that you may find out there on the internet. Or from a family's perspective, you can also block stuff that you don't necessarily want your kids to see. You will find many YouTubers cover off the likes of ad blockers. Now, some of them will remain around using Pi-hole, and like I said, I've been using Pi-hole, and you'll see a lot of others kind of discuss the likes of ADGuard Home. Now, ADGuard Home is a little bit of a kind of grey area because there is a potential fact that they do have some ties to Russia. Although they've obviously come out as a business and denounced the actions carried out in the war with Ukraine, it still might not sit right with people and their beliefs and their own personal views on whether they want to actually support ADGuard. And everybody has that right, as does the company, obviously, to function. So I suppose what I was looking to do is come away from self-hosting, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Mainly one is at the moment I'm going through a redecoration of my home office. But secondly, generally, if the DNS servers go down, as you can imagine, I am the first person to blame. So it is pretty much an essential service, and I wanted to kind of take that chore away from myself and find a service out there that would do it all for me. So option-wise, we have plenty, right? We could just use something like Quad 9, so that's 9.9.9.9, and they're a really good one. So they do massively respect your privacy. So they don't do any ad blocking or kind of tracking blocking, but they certainly respect your privacy. They don't generally sell off your kind of search history, etc. You could link into Google, so that's 8.8.8 or 8.4.4. However, with Google, the likelihood is that they're going to absolutely sell that data to somebody else. So it's probably not recommended. Also, you will have no application blocking for ads. It's just basically every ad and its soldieries are going to come and land on your doorstep. So the other kind of options are Cloudflare. You could use Cloudflare. Cloudflare does have some ad blocking potential. But I decided to look at something different. And one of the recommendations I saw while watching other YouTubers madly go from Pi-hole to ADGuard and absolutely get inflamed for doing so was the use of Next DNS. Now, Next DNS, again, is a very promising option. So for me, it really appealed because it kind of did everything I was looking for. It would enable me to block ads and use block lists. You could absolutely respect my privacy. So you could kind of have control over what logs it contains, what it keeps, what data it uses, how long it keeps that data. Most importantly, where it keeps that data as well. So here in the EU, we have this wonderful thing, unless you have to abide by it, of GDPR, which makes life so much nicer from a privacy perspective, but for businesses gives them a major headache. But also you could link this into Switzerland. Now, if you think standard Europe GDPR is complex and convoluted, you wait until you see the Switzerland side, because they really go to town when it comes to privacy. So they have some of the best privacy laws in the world. And NextDNS enables you to keep whatever logs you may want to keep in Switzerland. So rest assured that data is going nowhere. So this is NextDNS, and maybe somebody should tell them with their website there's such a thing called dark mode. My eyes. Joking aside, this is probably down to the theme I'm using. But either way, it is the new firewall type for the modern internet. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't replace a firewall, but it can protect you from a lot of security threats and stop them actually before they ever reach you. Particularly ones around the kind of trackers and some of the nefarious ads that generally link to the likes of malware and phishing attacks, as it mentions there, cryptojacking and more. So the good thing is it tends to block out a lot of these things before they even reach you or your loved ones. Now, the great thing is some of the parental controls as well, and I've had some great fun with this in the past few days, basically turning off access to my son's Snapchat and something called B-roll, which was great fun. Obviously, you could block YouTube. I wouldn't want to do that, but what you can do is you can actually put some timed events around this. So basically, to help from a productivity point of view, having no access to some of these functions during certain hours of the day, which I think if kids are studying for homework, or even if you're at work and you tend to procrastinate a lot, you can basically block some of those. You can see what's happening on devices with in-depth analytics and real-time logs. Now, the good thing is with this is you do have to basically add in some connections. There is a client available for Windows desktops. As you can see here, it does support all these kind of major platforms. So you've got the likes of Apple, Android, Windows, Google Chrome. So that'll be the Chrome browsers, Firefox, Edge, Brave, and even Ubiquiti. You can install this on a Ubiquiti device. I haven't gone that far yet. All I've done is just basically put some of the stuff in there. You can basically build unlimited customizations and configurations as well. So the great thing is you can basically build out what you want. It does support DNSSEC as well, which is fantastic. The great thing is here as well is this rewrite section. So rewrites, just to kind of make this really simple, is you can basically define where you want DNS traffic to go. So for example, if you're a home labber, what you can do is basically rewrite to a wildcard for your DNS. So like for myself, I've got a expressittech.co.uk or .uk. What I could do is if I decided to self-host something on there, even if I wasn't enabling it to the internet, say it was just locally hosted and I wasn't exposing it, but I had SSL certs, I could basically point my DNS to there, but just doing a wildcard. So gone are the days of having to have traffic.expressittech.co.uk or mealy.expressittech.co.uk. I can just do it with the one simple one and just point to one IP address. So that is really good. Obviously, like they have the likes of low latency. So I've tested this. To be honest, actually, I find that the response time on NextDNS is really, really good. And here's some of their customers that they use on a general basis. So you can kind of see the amount of queries they're getting each month and some wonderful kind of feedback. But the great thing is we can just click try it now. If I click try it now, I will have my first profile and it will give me a couple of DNS servers to go and link to. It will tell me exactly how to step through and set everything up. So you'll notice here it's already telling me that my NextDNS is already configured with another profile, which is absolutely fine. I appreciate that. I'm just showing you guys how this works. Now you'll notice it is now in dark mode because I've been here before, thank Christ. It goes through the steps of how to set it up with Windows, for example, how to link your IP address. So the actual support here is really, really good. And you'll see that if you go to routers, for example, you can step through the routers. It will tell you how to do it with pfSense, how to do it with Unbound if you want to use it that way, Micritic, that kind of thing. It's got all of that information in here. If you want to find the Unify one, it's definitely in here. I think it sits in this wiki area that you can go and find. From a security standpoint, we've got the ability to turn on different levels of threat intelligence. So you've got these threat intelligence feeds, which basically, as it mentions there, the kind of COVID-19 phishing, there was a lot of that happened around the time. You can certainly turn on some of those kind of threat intelligence feeds. I would certainly recommend doing that. You've got this AI-driven threat detection. Again, something very much worthwhile turning on. So I would certainly have that on. You've got the Google Safe Browsing. So basically what that is doing is turning on all of those kind of safe browsing thing that Google are analyzing and enabling that. I generally tend to turn all of these ones on. You've got the DNS rebinding protection. You will find that this can be a kind of controversial one. People may want it on, may not want it on, but either way, it's something that you can worth try and just kind of see how you get on. You've got all these other kind of ones here as well. So the kind of homograph attacks protection. You've got the typo squatting protection, the dynamic algorithms protection. So all of these are like the kind of just standard protections you get out of the box that you can turn on. Now you'll notice also you have the ability to block the kind of top level domains. I would say if you do that, obviously what it's then going to do is propagate down. So it's very much worth considering if you do turn that on. That's very much a kind of advanced user feature. And I think this one is probably one of the best ones because nobody ever wants to see that, right? So blocking that before it ever hits you is definitely something worth doing. From a privacy point of view, this is what we were talking about earlier. So what we can do is we can add into block lists. So if I go into block lists, it will basically pull up a load. So some of these will seem very familiar to people. So you've got like these kind of popularity ones, and you can kind of step through and review which one of these you want to use. The Stephen Black one is very well known. For example, some of the ADGuard ones are available in here straight off the bat. You've got the Goodbye Ads, Fanboys, Add Away, those kind of ones that just generally appear straightforward. You can add some custom ones as well. I've seen people do that. So it's absolutely something you can go away and do. I would strongly suggest if you're going to step through this, you kind of just add stuff in as you go. But there are some kind of very language or very territory specific ones in here. So there's kind of Dutch block lists, etc. Well, if you're not going to a Belgian, for example, sites often, you probably don't want to add that in because there's no real need. You've got the native tracking protection as well. So that's basically blocking those spectrum trackers that operate at that system level. Again, it's up to you whether you want to turn those on. This one, from my own personal point of view, don't block it, but it's up to you. You know, if you're going to support people with affiliate links, if you turn this on, it will absolutely block it. It does say here, though, your IP address will be automatically hidden from those websites to provide your privacy anyway. So it's totally up to you. Personally, you know, I generally will support people if they put affiliate links in. So other YouTubers I watch, if they've got affiliate links, I tend to do it. But you could have different profiles, right? So you could have a new profile and you can basically set some rules to build out those profiles anyway. So again, totally up to yourself. Parental control. So this is a great thing that you can basically add a load of games. So you can see the likes of TikTok, Timber, Snapchat, Facebook, League of Legends, WhatsApp, Steam, eBay, you name it, Zoom, etc. So some of these are kind of built in and ready to go. Xbox Live. So, you know, you can really upset your son or daughter if you want to. You can also do it from categories as well. So, you know, if they, you don't want your kids watching that, certainly not. And if you want, obviously, gambling content off, dating, these kind of stuff that breach copyright, social networks, online gambling, that kind of thing, again, can absolutely be blocked. You get this thing called recreation time. So this is basically the period of each day where some of these websites can be available. So this is where you can do that clever thing I said about those people that tend to kind of procrastinate a lot or don't actually get stuff done in a good time or period. That's absolutely good. Or even from your kids, if you wanted to treat them so they can have some recreation time where Roblox does work, for example, then you can specify that. You've got the YouTube restricted mode, again, for kids. So it will hide the kind of comments, that kind of thing. You can then enable the blocking bypass method. So if your kid happens to be a bit of a tech nerd, you can absolutely stop them from trying to bypass it. So you can work on doing some of that and the safe search as well. Now you've got these two here, which is your deny and allow list. Now what will happen is I will show you my system in a moment, but basically as stuff is blocked, you can basically add it to the allow list, or if you find something yourself that you just want to deny, you can absolutely deny it there. The analytics side will show you what's being blocked at the moment. Obviously I'm not blocking anything because this is just my new profile. I will log in and show you mine in a moment. But basically, you can kind of see exactly what's being blocked, where the traffic destinations are, what's being blocked by, encrypted, what's coming up in DNSSEC, that kind of thing. And again, with the logs, you can kind of peel through some of those based off the information provided, but I'll step through mine in a moment. Now, when it comes to settings, you've got this bit that says storage locations. This is where I was talking about where you could store your data from a privacy point of view, whether it's United States, European Union, or Switzerland. I can absolutely change that. What I can also do is change the retention down to as low as an hour, 6 hours, 1 day, etc. I generally keep mine at around 1 week, mainly because if there are any logs that I want to go through, I want to be able to kind of, if something's being blocked, I can go and have a look at why. And then I can kind of adjust it. Bearing in mind, this is located in Switzerland, so I'm not losing any data here. It's just basically being logged in Switzerland. They're not going to sell it on. They're not going to do anything with it because, if you want to look up the privacy laws in Switzerland, by all means, go away and do so. You can download your logs. You can clear the logs. You can also have a block page, which is really, really nice. If your kids don't understand why something's being blocked, it will increase the kind of time to live on some of these, so you will get a slight lag just because of the fact it's obviously coming back with those warnings. It does mention it there. You do get some bits about speeding up your browsing here, so you can enable cache boost. I would recommend that. I don't personally enable the CNAME flattening. You can. It's totally up to you whether you want to do that. But the bit that I tend to use a lot of is this rewrite. So from a rewrites perspective, as I mentioned earlier, if I wanted, say, for example, let's just make one up, but expressit.co.uk, if I wanted that to point to a certain IP address, 192.168, I don't know, 1.1, for example, I could absolutely do that. And if I click save, that will then repoint anything in a wildcard that's linked to, so any subdomain of expressit.co.uk will link to 192.168.1.1 locally, right? Because obviously that's a local IP address. If you're hosting somewhere else, you can absolutely use this to help point your machines here to somewhere else. If you don't necessarily want to, publish something live on the internet, so if you're using, say, Linode or something, you could use this to kind of get around it. You can enable other people as well to have access, which is basically done as follows. So if we come back and take a look at my logs, for example, you can see already some of the queries, block points, the amount that's been blocked. So bear in mind what I said earlier about having a certain amount of queries. I've already breached that, but that's because I do a lot of stuff. So that's why I'm going to support them and kind of pay that price, but I will step through the pricing in a moment. But you can kind of see where we're at on a day-to-day basis, what we're blocking, what we're not. We can see the logs, so we can see when it's being blocked, etc. And also from an allow list, you can see the items that I've allowed through. So some of these are, albeit they are kind of tracking stuff from Microsoft, for example, I very much need them on my day-to-day basis for my work. So, but yeah, either way, I've got that ability to go in and do stuff. So from a pricing point, just to kind of break this down a little bit, we talked here about this amount of queries per month. As you can see, I'd broke that already. That's just generally because I'm what I would call a power user, right? I've got a lot of people that use the internet in the house. I'm also pushing quite a lot of devices through that DNS. So I'm expecting to see those kind of queries. But for me to have a pro license, for example, we're talking £1.79 a month or £17.90. Well, from my point, for making my life easy, that's absolutely what I'm going to do, because you know, that's nothing for me to kind of protect myself from that perspective. So yeah, I would absolutely support them. But I would say if you're going to give this a try, probably start with the free, work your way up to it, see how it's performing, see if it kind of is a great replacement for your Pi-hole potentially, and yeah, go from there. So there we are. That is Next DNS, and that is why I will be using it moving forward. It takes away the pain for me for having to worry about whether or not that Pi is up and running, if it's a Pi, whether that virtual machine is up and running, or if that LXC container is up and running. Many times I've either taken down a machine to move it or do something, some kind of just general maintenance, and completely forgot that even though I've got a primary backup and a third DNS server, that generally what happens if you start to take one out of a chain, it can get quite painful. So it kind of takes the need off me having to worry about where my DNS sits. And as I go through the transition of moving my office about or my studio about and reconnecting everything, I don't necessarily need to make sure that that particular device is always online, because devices will just be able to go out and reach the Next DNS servers. So that would be my recommendation. I mean, at the end of the day, from a price point, you could absolutely do this for free. If you're a bit more of a power user like myself, I've supported them by giving them the $1.99 a month, mainly just because I've then got unlimited queries. Not that I'd ever probably breach that 300,000 a month, but nevertheless, because I do a lot of stuff, it's probably worth me just investing in that. It's £17 for me for a year. Anyway, if you have liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.